And now let's get ready for the next segment of the day, which is Inspiring Journeys, where the women leaders will share their own experiences, takeaways, as well as advice for budding women professionals. So let's get into that segment. Our first session of this segment is titled Breaking Barriers, Climbing Leadership Ladder in Finance Sector. So let me introduce our eminent speakers of this session. Ms. Binitha Dalal, founder and managing partner, Mount K Capital, head fundraising, Rustomjee Group. Binitha joined Rustomjee Group in 2008 when the industry and the world economy was going through the Lehman effect. She has been an integral part of the finance management and fundraising for the group and also in charge of the group insurance portfolios. She is now leading the real estate fund, Mount K Capital, that will be for residential and mixed use, along with being part of Rustomjee Group. Our next eminent panel member is Ms. Gitanjali Lalwani Mirchandani, a real estate investment professional. She has been in the real estate sector for the last 16 years, more than 16 years, and she has always been on the lending side and worked with organizations like ICICI Bank, Kotak, and her latest assignment was with JM Financial, where she worked for 11 years and was managing director and head of origination for their real estate NBFC. Right now, she is on a sabbatical, but I'm sure she is going to find something which won't be outside this sector, which she so much loves. Our next panel member, let me introduce Ms. Ruchita Maniar, Executive Director, Goldman Sachs. Ruchita has over 17 years experience in the private equity real estate industry in India and has worked across the entire life cycle of fund management. Currently at Goldman Sachs, she is responsible for scaling the business in India and Southeast Asia. She has played an instrumental role in raising funds, driven investments in private credit, core and core plus, and opportunistic equity strategies. So these are our expert women leaders of this panel. And as I said, this is about the personal journeys of our women leaders. My first question is, financial services sector is still considered a boys' club. So how did you ladies broke into it? Binitha, let's start from you.
I think, thank you, Sapna, for having us all here, and great panel to have. Ruchita and Gitanjali are more, I would say, mentors than anything else, because I've kind of worked with them across. I think real estate as a sector is supposed to be a male-dominated sector. The first time I'm hearing financial services is also a male-dominated sector. So in short, we're saying all sectors are male-dominated sectors. If you're a woman, so no matter which sector you are in, you're breaking barriers in everything that you're doing on a daily basis. So kudos to all of us for that. I think it comes from the fact that it's how you approach a challenge or how you approach a daily situation. I've never really approached anything that is in the sector or anything that I do that this is a male-dominated one, and you're a girl or a woman, you're coming into this sector, and so on and so forth. It's as cliche as it can be. If you really want to get something done, no matter what the sector, what the dominance, you'll always get it done. And I think that's how I have approached everything, and that's how I kind of got into it. For me, finance happened by chance. I don't think I was pegged to be in the finance sector. I started off in operations. Lehman ensured that I get into finance, and Gitanjali had a role to play with it in my first couple of transactions. She made me fall in love with finance and the art of getting things done. So yeah, so I think that's how it is for me. So yeah. Thanks.
Fantastic. I think let's not follow the cliches and just do our own thing. And that's what Binitha believes in. Ruchita, what made you, finance services sector considered more boys' club? How did you get into this? And what was your starting journey?
I think coming from a business family, dinner conversations were primarily around accounts, investment in shares, business models, etc. So there was extremely a natural pull towards finance management. I would say real estate was more of a stroke of luck. And, when I started way back in 2005, yes, it was a heavily male-dominated, industry. I mean, there were situations where in conferences, I would be the only woman around. I mean, in fact, we would have nobody else in those conferences. So yes, I think it always meant, because of the male dominance, it always meant that extra efforts had to be put in. And it was not a very easy, because speaking up is not a very natural phenomenon for most of us, right? Because culturally we've been, conditioned not to speak up. So it doesn't kind of come naturally. So despite, having a good understanding on the domain, probably deal contours, etc., there would always be that extra effort to speak up, and, probably our points would get registered after 3 or 4 attempts, right? As compared to our peers on the other side. So I think it has been a slow journey, but things have surely changed. I think then it's all about building the credentials with the teams, the exceptional clients who endorse the impact that you bring to the business. So it has been a slow journey, and but it's surely changed, as I would say.
Okay, so it has been a slow journey, but a lot of changes have happened over the years. You must have also seen in your, more women are now coming in the sector. Gitanjali, what has been your experience when you started out? As Ruchita said, she was the only woman out there in the conferences. So how did you, kind of assimilated into that?
So how finance happened to me was, I think for me as a B school graduate, it all depends on what your major and minor is. As it was as simple as that, right? So the decision was taken the day I decided what my major was, which was finance. And at that point, I think my fundamental reason for choosing that is that I think you can't go without touching finance in any aspect of your life. Whatever you might do at some point in time, the basic understanding of numbers is something which is there, and I always loved that. And that was my predominant reason to get into the sector. Like Ruchita rightly said, for me also from the beginning, it was finance, yes, but it was finance and real estate, which Binitha said, and both of these sectors were at that point in time barely any women. I was very lucky because my first boss in ICICI Bank when I started off was a woman, and ICICI Bank as an organization had a lot of women on top. Right, so it made things a little easier for us in that organization, but it was difficult. Yes, there was hardly any people in any of the real estate conferences. Everybody knew there will be these 2-3 women who will be there, who will be representing this gender, but that's really changed, not only for the finance sector, but also the real estate sector. I think when I left JM, I think my team was 55% women. Most of the people who were leading the regional roles, the operations side, the legal side, they were all women. So I was very proud of that. I think we've come a long way.
So we are very proud of that too. So that's a good news. But one thing I see common here in all our 3 speakers is the real estate and finance. Both again male dominated, as Binitha said. The perception is that it is male dominated, and very much true as well. Although a lot of strides have been made in that. You, Ruchita, and both Gitanjali mentioned being the only woman at that point of time. One of the biggest challenge that you would like to probably mention here that you faced as woman professional in your journey, Ruchita, again starting from you, what was that one big challenge that you had to overcome?
I from a professional standpoint, it is just that unlike Gitanjali, I didn't have too many mentors around. So perhaps, it's just that, that extra effort to kind of figure where we are heading, right? I mean, there was no navigation about things. I think that's a bigger. Second, I also, it's a bit of a personal thing, but I think that entire once you have a kid, the kind of decision that you want to make as to whether, so you're kind of making a decision whether it's a kid versus a career kind of a setup, right? So that is when I had a few friends and my husband who was like a rock, who kind of brought me out of the or mindset and focus on an and mindset. I think that's very critical. That's more of a personal, baggage which we all carry as women, because somewhere deep down we feel very guilty, and our kid is our responsibility, etc. Because again, as I said, the society conditioning is such, right? So the minute you kind of straddle towards an and mindset, I quickly realized that a lot of solutions, you then start thinking of solutions, right? You start thinking of tools to make both things work. So I think that's a big baggage, which I would say I struggled with, and then I kind of overcame.
Right. Societal mindset, as Ruchita rightly said, and in fact, we were earlier talking to Tina Ravda from Heinz. She also mentioned the same thing. And I think, or versus and is something which all women professionals face during their career. So that was one big challenge Ruchita has mentioned there. And again, support of the family. We'll come to that later. But Binitha, what was that one big challenge probably you had to face during your journey?
I think I actually joined the company really young. I kind of joined as an undergraduate really early in time. At I think I was 21, 22 when I kind of joined real estate, and Lehman hit the entire sector. I mean, the entire globe very badly. And A, I was a girl. B, I was fairly young. The entire journey for me to walk into banks and financial institutions and represent a developer and go in and then kind of negotiate and work with them and kind of get loans done for the group was kind of, I would say, my initial first few loans were a little tough because, like Ruchita said, obviously, you have to kind of go and knock and get them to kind of take you seriously. And it took a lot of, I would say, acceptance from a public sector bank to see a woman in their room to kind of negotiate with them on behalf of a lender and talk to them in terms of, getting a loan for a developer and not just that, but negotiate commercials and run the entire process for them and not have the conversation with the person or the developer directly. So that was a I would say I wouldn't say a challenge, but I would say that was a journey that I had to kind of straddle to and take through. It taught me a lot in terms of how to kind of get my ways and my ends and understand the banking sector a little more. So I always say my first learning in the financial sector was my first loan, which I got done from State Bank of India. And if you can get that done, I'm sure you can get anything done, because believe me, that's like the Harvard of banking. The institute is built so rock solid, and the way they kind of run their processes, if you're able to fit that, you've kind of aced an Harvard degree as far as banking is concerned. Ironically, my major was marketing. I was not a finance background. So trust me, for me, finance was a learning from scratch and going through everything from base. And I will actually give it to my mentors and give it to everyone in the support system at Rustomjee that actually stood by me and pushed me to kind of excel on a daily basis. It was a journey that I had to do, and Lehman was one of the reasons why kind of it worked. And I must say something that we are giving finance importance today, but I remember way back in 2008, 2009, when everything was going upward and there was a boom, nobody really cared about the importance of finance management, or about the right funding. People were all sitting there and saying, oh, whatever's coming our way, let's kind of take it and go ahead and see how we can keep running the circle. But when we kind of work that entire way in which the importance of finance has really come out in the last couple of years.
I just wanted to watch the others. That's okay.
That's where the entire difference has come through. Hey, Bharti, how are you?
Okay. Should I re-log in or leave it?
We have some disturbance. I'll ask the tech team to please switch off the audios at the back end.
Yeah, I am already there. I haven't put on the video. That's all.
Can we have all the other speakers logging in to please switch off their audios now?
Thank you, Ramona.
Binitha, you rightly mentioned, I think, having support system is very important, but what you had to face was probably the prejudices. As you mentioned, being young and being woman. So, people have some kind of perception and prejudices. Will she be able to do it? Is she the right person? Is she the decision maker? Gitanjali, coming to you, Ruchita spoke about the societal mindsets. Binitha spoke about the prejudices. What was your biggest challenge that you would like to share here?
So it was a combination of both. So like Binitha, I was also very young when I started off on this. And, when you go to a developer's office, okay, when they look at you, firstly, you have to really make an impression for them to take you seriously. Okay, ये madam आई है, but उनको FSI का full form भी पता है कि नहीं? I don't think they, think beyond that, right? So it was very difficult to break through that, to say ki boss, though I'm a woman, I do understand the intricacies of the business, and at least I'm there to learn, and you rather take me seriously. And I think it just took a few months or maybe a few years in my case, because ICICI is an ocean, right? So it was an excellent launch pad. You suddenly get exposure to a lot. And I think that is a double-edged sword, but thankfully it worked really well for me. The biggest challenge, if I have to say, I will have to pick up from where Ruchita left it. I think for all of us, it is when you come back from your maternity leave, right? So when I did come back, you suddenly realize that 4-5 months, so much has changed. And I think it's a lot to do intrinsically with your own struggles, with yourself. It's the guilt as to whether you're doing right by your job, whether you're doing right by your family, whether you're doing right by your child. So I guess for all of us as women, there's this WhatsApp forward, which I love to quote every time I speak, that, both there's a man and a woman at the starting line, and there is an end goal, which is the same for both of them. But there's a clean road as far as the man is concerned, and there are 10 hurdles. You have your biological clock, you have your child, you have your in-laws, you have your family. There's so much you have to navigate and just reach the same goal. But I think in time, and with the support of my family, as well as very, very understanding boss, I think that support system is very important. I think if you don't have that understanding at work, those mentors at work who understand the daily struggles, it becomes extremely difficult to navigate that. So I've been blessed with good support system everywhere for me to have been able to pass through those couple of difficult years of my life. So yeah.
That's true. I think, what comes out from this conversation is, no one asks a male colleague, how do you balance work and, home? No one asks a male colleague, do you have a support system at home? How's your family supporting your career choices? I think this is where
you're making it in thing, you made it too much.
Biggest, I think the biggest difference lies between the woman professional and the male professional. But coming back to the work life, Binitha, what was that one best work related advice that you received?
Work related advice.
Best work related advice that you got.
I think when you join young, you're really, really immature, and you kind of learn while you're there. And as women, while I'm the best multitask force that anyone can have or humanity can have is a woman. And believe me, women are more diligent than most others in terms of the way they kind of conduct themselves and so on and so forth. But the one thing where men ace it over women in a lot of things that I have seen is that they have the ability to kind of patiently run through the entire process and kind of navigate things in a way that they're able to win over a lot of things much more than women. Women come in with a lot of emotion, they come in with a lot of passion. Men have the ability to control both. When men actually, when you look, like how Gitanjali said, that the road for a woman has lots of obstacles, where that for a man is kind of straightforward. They are able to maneuver their emotions and passions, so that what happens is they are able to kind of stay clear, straight forward, all of that. They do get emotional, but I think women are a little more emotional and passionate than the rest. So I think that for me is a learning which I got. I got it from everything that I've been doing of late, and I think that for me is a learning that I think is a life learning. The ability to balance emotion and passion so that you're able to stay calm and straight.
Okay, so the best work related advice that you got, I think, is by observing the men professionals
and going through experiences of my own. So yeah, but both combined.
Right. Ruchita, you mentioned, one of the best advices I think I can, say now from your husband when he said that do not think about is or, and, but in your professional career, from your colleagues, from your mentors, or your, the top management, any
I think, yeah, I think the top, I mean, probably the best one for me from a career standpoint, which is very philosophical as well as applicable across walks of life, is to look at a career as a marathon and not a sprint, right? So ideally, we need to focus really on the long-term growth and impact, not necessarily get bogged down by, one lost bonus or one lost promotion. I think it is very easily said, but one has to go through that journey over a long period to appreciate how nuanced and important this aspect is. Because after 17 years, I can appreciate this, but I am sure I could never appreciate. I thought it was very philosophical when I got this, probably in year 5 or year 6. So, and I truly subscribe to that, right? So I think the focus has to be long-term on the impact and growth.
Okay, so one has to believe that you are here for the long term, for the long run, and that how, to see. And what Binitha also said, it's, we get bogged down by emotional, ye nahi hua, or we failed in this. So let's not get bogged down because we are here for the long run. We want to stay in this business and, so.
Yeah, because most of our careers are 20, 30 years, right? You like it or not, that's what all of us are aiming for. So it's pretty much a marathon as opposed to a sprint.
That's right. Gitanjali, you heard both the speakers. What is that one best work-related advice you got and from whom?
Oh, from who? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so no, the best advice I think I have received is, I think as women, also more so for us, I think we don't ask enough, right? I don't think we ask what we deserve. So I think I was told very early on in my career that if you don't go there and ask what you think you deserve, you're never going to get it. So which is what I've always stood by, to the extent of sometimes being annoying. But I think it is important to know that what is it that you really deserve, how hard you work, and how you are producing results, and how those results should be rewarded. I think we second guess ourselves a bit too much, a bit too often, and hence we don't think that it is in our place to go and ask for what we deserve. So that's one thing which I have been told, that you should, by a very dear boss who's a very good friend as well now, and has been a mentor for me for the longest time. And it's worked very well for me, because if you don't put it out there that this is what you expect, I think most people think that you're happy with your situation. So yes, for me, that was the biggest learning and advice I received.
That's right. In fact, in one of the earlier panels, one of the speakers said, women don't raise their hands often. So that is something probably as a woman professional, we need to, in another one of our earlier, where the HR guy said that, women do not promote themselves that much as a male professional would do. So this is something where probably women can work and not see themselves as lesser than anyone else. Another interesting question that we have from one of our audience is, women, women, as you said, that women second guess themselves more. Things have changed a lot over the years, but do women still need to prove themselves as a professional? Is it more of an external pressure, or is it more women's internal pressures that they take to prove themselves? What is that is the perception? Binitha, do you agree with that? I think women need to prove more than their male colleague as a professional.
So I don't think women need to, but I think mindset-wise we are conditioned to. So that's why people still have that. I don't really think anybody needs to prove anything to anyone. But it's if you look at women as throughout the years, it's not just work. In the overall way, they've always been projected as a lot that needs to get protected, that needs to get cared for, that is a very mild and some a sect of women, or a group of people who who actually come from a perspective that either they are looked at as someone that needs protection or someone that is weak. So I think because of that, and while the metros, I am telling you, are a little more open towards women working and women having multiple facets, like Gitanjali and Ruchita said, that working women who are balancing between families, between kids, and between work. In the tier 2, tier 3 cities, and probably not just tier 2, tier 3 cities, maybe 3, 4 cities today, that mindset still exists. There are not that emphasis or that change in mindset needs to come in where women are brought up with the fact that you are not born to get married. You are not born to bear a family. Yes, that is your superpower, but you also are born to be who you are. That mindset, the day it comes, that is the day when this entire conversation and this, will go from a man versus a woman to humans on this earth who are actually making a difference in their lives. Because at the end of the day, whether you look at yourself as a man or a woman, at the end of the day, you're a human. If you can't get that side of yourself and show that side of yourself, you will always be typecasted as A gender or B gender, or now the acceptance of a third type of gender. So I think it's not about whether you have to, it's about what you've been conditioned to. Touch wood, I would say, I have never had to experience that, where I have been made to feel that I am not a human, but I am a woman and I need to fall in line because this is what I was born to be. And I just hope everyone else who, every new kid that is born in this earth gets the same kind of response, because that is the only way it will change. So I really don't think that women have to or need to. I think women just need to be themselves, and that's proof enough of their worth.
That's true.
And I really hope someday that
how
that
women
mindset
are conditioned
changes.
over the years. I think that is how we are brought up, and that kind of plays on our psyche even when we are professional. Ruchita, what do you have to say? Is it more external pressure, or is it women themselves who put a lot of demand on themselves as a professional?
I would say, we don't have to now. I kind of completely concur with Binitha now. I think times have changed. So, but the thing is, there are two sides of a coin, right? If women are coming out more forceful, more open, more, raring, I think the male counterparts also need to kind of lose the inhibitions, and be more inclusive, right? I think so a lot of emphasis over the recent years has been on, shredding or shedding the biases at the women's end. But I think it's a holistic exercise wherein a lot of emphasis needs to be placed on the other aspect as well, right? Wherein you actually, because these are things which most of the male colleagues do not even realize, because they are these prejudices, they have been conditioned equally, right? So if I have to make somebody feel comfortable, they don't. We have to make some, make things more natural for the other. I think that aspect is what now, and I completely appreciate that corporates are now focused on it, right? So I think at least in the urban setup, you're going to see a lot of change now, because I think women are far more forthcoming. It's now the other side, which needs to be a bit more inclusive and careful about how, their actions are being perceived. And these are as instinctive to them as a lot of issues are instinctive to us, right? So it's only going to change by conditioning and awareness. So there is no right or wrong answer.
Yeah, that's right. I think that is what is happening. That's the change we are now seeing in the corporate world, where we are now talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, not only about gender diversity. Gitanjali, what do you have to say, about, women? Are they pressurizing themselves more? Is it the external pressure? Is it the combination of both?
So Sapna, I believe that I still don't think we are absolutely open. Yes, it has changed. We have come a long way, but we are still having this panel discussion, right? We're still having a discussion about women leaders. We are still a minority. We are still a certain, there are statistics which prove that a certain number of people women who start climbing the ladder, and by the time they reach on top, that number becomes very minuscule. Salaries, there are statistics which show that women on top are paid a certain percentage less than men on top doing exactly the same amount of work. So I think we still have a long way to go. I think our generation is the transition generation, and I think that's why we've all had it very difficult in terms of balancing also, because here's a generation which wants to break across to everybody saying, no, we are different, no, we should be treated at par with how men are being treated. Whereas our previous generation is not really open to hearing that, or is just about started hearing that. I think our next generation might have it a little easier as far as this balance is concerned, because we as mothers, I think rightly said by Ruchita, right, the men are who need to be conditioned, and who is going to do that? Us as parents, right? I have a son. I think it's my responsibility more today to ensure that he, as growing up, knows that he has to look at the other gender absolutely equally, right? And I think we as working women will ensure that we do that, so that life becomes simpler for our gender going forward. So I think that's how it will evolve, and hopefully it keeps getting better with time.
That's right. You correctly said that we are still having these discussions about, women leaders, gender diversification in this thing, which means that, yes, we are on the right track. As Binitha said, that she had a little bit easy because the people she was working with still were more sensitized towards that, although she had her own prejudices and challenges to face. Every woman has to face, the balancing of this thing. And as Ruchita rightly said, it has to be, we need to start working on even sensitizing our male colleagues towards that, creating a level.
Now I'll just add here, also the education system needs to change. I'm not sure if a lot of people remember, but there used to be a subject called home science, which used to be one of the majors for women in arts. Like they were kind of born
that class.
Yeah, they were born and told that you can pass your 10th and then get into college and take home science, which will teach you how to get married and have kids. And ironically, there was someone recently sent some creative which said that from 1970s or something, where there were classes on how women should be trained to get married and be post-marriage. So I think the education system also plays a very large role, and that has also changed largely, because I have never seen, I don't see home science as a subject anymore in anyone's graduation.
We have come a long way, thankfully, from there.
Which used to be, so yeah.
So thankfully we are a long way from there, and as Gitanjali said, it is how we bring up the next generation. And looking at, we interact with a lot of young generation. We had a earlier panel, some other event where we had the entire young generation, and all these young generation women professionals, they are very self-assured. They know what they want, how they want to do their career. I think leaders like you set the path for them, set an example for them, open their, broken the glass ceiling for them, and that is why they can aspire even more. I think there have been some great learnings from this panel, what Binitha spoke about, just don't look at the cliches, probably take the best out of what your male colleagues are doing, learn from that and create your own space. What Ruchita mentioned, let's think of our career as a long-term game and not try to fix everything that goes wrong. And what Gitanjali said, it is the second generation, the next generation, that we have to, the boys and the men, that we have to start sensitizing towards women professionals in the corporate world. But looking at our leaders here, I think the future is bright, and probably next time we will be having a conversation on some different topic next year. So thank you so much for all our women speakers, women leaders here, for talking about their experiences and takeaways so wholeheartedly and so candidly, sharing it with us. Thank you so much, Ruchita, for being here with us, Gitanjali and Binitha, being part of this conversation.
Thank you, Sapna. Thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you, Sapna.
Thank you.
Thank you, Realty Plus team. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Binitha. Thanks, Ruchita.
Thanks,
Bye.
Gitanjali. Thanks, Gitanjali.
Bye.
Thanks, Ruchita. Bye.